Ryan here, and I'm back for another build-along video. You already know where this is going since you've seen the title and photo. It's gonna be Star Wars build. That's how it's gonna end, hopefully. But my real objective here is to make a lightweight build. As lightweight as possible without compromising performance. Because lighter is not always better for me, whether it's 110, 118, 124 or smaller. The same rules of physics apply. So going too light has its own disadvantages too. First thing that comes to mind is traction, because when there's not enough pressure, there's not enough bite from the tires. Side heel stability can also be an issue when there's not enough unsprung weight to hold it down. And probably a couple of other potential issues if we'll get into the nitty-gritty. So for this build, I'm going to be using this carbon fiber king snake chassis. I haven't weighed it yet and I'll do all the weighing later, but I'm basically aiming for 500 to 550 grams with the body included. That's easily achievable with an SCX24, but with TRX4M, that'll be a little more challenging. I'm gonna use this stock axles, but being the lucky guy that I usually am, I'm still waiting for the axle shafts and brass parts that I ordered from Amazon 2 weeks ago. The delivery date keeps pushing back, so I really don't know when I'm gonna receive them. Stock skid plate, modified for the king snake. Stock plastic gearbox with plastic gears. I have used the plastic Traxxas low gear set on my FJ45 build for more than a year now, maybe a year and a half now, and I haven't had any problems with it. That's why I'm not worried about using them here at all. Plus, they're much quieter and smoother than metal gears. Then I also plan to use this stock TRX4M shocks because they're lighter. So I'll convert the front shocks with positive and negative springs and rolling sleeves. At the rear, I'll be using these shocks on my cantilever system. So I'm gonna use that here. I'm also currently finishing this prototype carrier bearing that I'm working on. I've had 2 prints of this already. I'm trying to fine-tune it. It can get really tricky because I'm talking about a fraction of a millimeter tolerance here for the parts. A hairline too big or too small can ruin it all. I'll be using plastic drive shafts on the rear so I can cut them to specification and also because they're lighter. Then I'll have to make my own rear links for this, and I also need to find a way to extend this chassis. So it can work with the cantilever system. So I've got to extend it maybe by this much. For the front links, I might use this stainless steel links if I still have some room to add for more weight. And if not, I'll be using the stock plastic front links. For the wheels, I'll be using these 1.3 Enduro wheels. These have negative offset, but I plan to run them inverted with maybe a +2 or +3 hex hub to keep the offset as close to 0 as possible. So I'll see if that will work. For the body, I'll be using this Stormtrooper inspired buggy. Still working on some details, but I'll be sending this to the printer soon. In my mind, this is how a crawler in the George Lucas universe would look like, and this minifigure will be piloting that thing. So for the design features I did here, I made a low CG side tray that will let the battery sit almost as low as the skid plate. So battery on this side and maybe the receiver and ESC on this side. And then for the main body, I divided it into 5 parts. So just in case I break something, I won't have to reprint the whole thing. And then this one will be using 4 magnets, and all 4 magnets will be closer to the front than the middle. So 2 here under the hood, and then 1 on this side, 1 on this side. So I'm trying to keep the body as low volume as possible to keep it light, and then have it printed using a more durable filament to compensate. In between the waiting times I spent trying to finish my 6x6 K-truck, I started working on this carrier bearing, and the first thing I did was to actually carve out this connecting drive shaft out of a 4mm styrene rod, which is pretty hard. So I first work on this before working on the CAD file for this one. Now, there's a reason why there's not a lot of people making carrier bearings for TRX4M, and the reason for that is it's not that simple. So you'll see here that one end of the connecting rod is bigger than the other end. So this end should fit into the end of the drive shaft that has a bigger hole. This one usually connects to the axle pinion. And then this one, the other end, connects to the transmission. The other end, which is smaller, should fit into the end of the drive shaft that connects to the transmission originally. I just finished sorting out the drive shafts. So for the drive shaft connecting to the transmission, I made it really short. But the drive shaft connecting to the axle, it's just a standard Bronco front drive shaft. So I think this is the shortest wheelbase I can do at the moment. It's around 14 millimeters longer than the standard high trail wheelbase. So my next step here is to figure out how I can make the cantilever system work for this setup. I just finished installing this chassis extension that I designed. Now this allows me to use the cantilever suspension system without changing any parts. All I had to do was to move it back and move it closer to the axle. Now I'm gonna change the springs to shorter springs. This is gonna be fun. It took a few hours to get the links right. They were really sloppy at first because of the bends, but extra O-rings and angled rod ends kind of solved the problem. So what I've got here, these are stainless steel Injora links that I double bent and then extended from both ends with standoff screws. So I have different lengths here that I played around with until I get dimensions right. So this will be the ride height. I ended up with high trail plus 12 instead of 14, and I think that's the shortest that I can go. It's because of the drive shaft angle. I think the clearance here is good enough. That's gonna work. So say when you're climbing a wall and you're breaking over the ledge, once you get to 45 degrees, when your chassis is at 45 degrees, that is usually when the links get hung up here. So if you factor in the tires, you see it? this line. So that's gonna break over pretty easily. I'm not sure if I still wanna bend the uppers because I'm not sure how that's gonna help. I don't want to get crazy with the rear link clearance like with the setups I see online. Sometimes I ask myself, what are you gonna do with all that clearance? I just want to show you a little something here. So if ever you have purchased Enduro high trail links in the past, you might have encountered this special rod ends that they have for the front links. And that's what I used here for the outboard mounting. I think it's pretty effective for that one. Here at the rear, this is how it looks like. It's pretty tight here. I wish I had a link riser, but I don't. So I think this will do for now. So if ever I bend the rear uppers, it will be for the clearance of this part. Just a little bend. If I would bend it. Some quick adjustments here. So this was the version earlier. So straight uppers. And then I gave this part a little more bend. And then I made it longer here and shorter here. And to make room for the bend, I bent this a little. Also to make more room here. Well, here's a bit of a surprise. From 174, it's now down to 169. I was able to remove the chassis extensions and still make the cantilever work. And I removed the standoff screws I used on this end. I kept one in here. And I think this is the absolute shortest that I can do because the drive shaft here, the standard Bronco drive shaft here, is maxed out when it compresses. And there's no more room to move the cantilever back. I just realized I can make a shorter version of this one in the future. I can move the carrier mount forward by one slot and then lower the carrier by around 2 millimeters to get the right drive shaft angle for this one. Cut this shorter and then cut this drive shaft by maybe 3 or 4 millimeters. So everything will move forward with the correct drive shaft angle, and that will be around 160 to 162 millimeter wheelbase. If you'll take a closer look at this one, I'm not achieving full articulation. I already moved the front uppers by one slot. I'm still not getting it. And it's because this part over here is preventing the lower links from moving any further up. So what I could do is maybe shave this part off or cut off this part completely since I'm not using the M2 screw mount here. That's gonna give it more freedom to move. I snipped off the edges in these areas and I started filing this to allow a higher angle on the links. Now that's how I want it. I want to keep the tracks as narrow as possible so it can turn effectively despite the length. And to do that, I'm going to use these 1.3 inch wheels, which has negative offset, and then run it facing outside and flip this wheel face so it's gonna face inside. That's what I did here. So this one has a +2 hex hub inside, and see how close it gets. And you can't do this with a 1-inch wheel because the wheel is gonna touch the C hub and the steering link. So here on the other side, so I did not flip this one, and it's using a stock hex hub in between. And look at the difference. So this one obviously has a smaller scrub radius than this one. I don't want to run extra large tires like 70mm tires. So at first I thought of cutting one of my J-Concept tires for this one, but it was too risky, and if I do that, there's no turning back if I make a mistake. So instead, I bought these generic tires from Amazon, so which are 66mm. The reviews say that they're soft, and they're indeed soft, which is important, so I can get enough squish for a lightweight setup. For the tire inserts, I reached out to Sam of Sticky Wheels and asked him if he could make extra soft inserts for me. I'm curious about what his thinnest insert would be like, so that's what he made for me. So these are extra thin, extra soft tire inserts. So to compare with these normal tire inserts, it's really soft. It instantly yields to this one that has the normal thickness. So I use this on my other builds. So this one is dual stage. I use this particularly for heavier setups like the FJ75 Bandito and the 6x6K truck. Now the single stage version of this I use for my middleweight setups like my other cantilever setup and my shorty TRX4M Mini Cooper. So they're both around 600 grams more or less. So the single stage version of this one are perfect for those, and then this dual stage are ideal for heavier setups. Anyway, so Sam gave me another version, which is the midway between the thinnest one and the normal one. It's still softer than the normal ones. So I'm gonna test these two inserts and see which one works better for the setup. I just finished with the electronics layout. So it's gonna be powered by Komodo and Micropython. I initially wanted to use Mini Komodo for this one, but I learned that it's gonna touch the drive shaft if you mount it facing forward. So I settled with this instead. And then I had to cut the wires, and it's something that I don't normally do because there's always a smart way to just tuck them in. But for this build, there's simply no space for any additional wiring. And then the battery is gonna sit here on the other side tray. And then the receiver here is just being held by a double-sided tape at the moment, but I'm gonna change that with E6000 or Gorilla Glue after I change this with the final side tray, which will be in color black. I already replaced the side trays with this black version. So there are magnets in here and here. And I also have the body, but I just need to work on a very minor fitment issue to accommodate this part of the electronics. And then I need to cut this up for the driver, paint the shock sleeves, and I think I'm done. I painted the sleeves with pearl white. It took a day to dry this up because it's been raining non-stop. So this is how it's gonna look like. I also painted the body. So white, Tamiya primer, then Tamiya pearl white paint, and then Tamiya semi-gloss clear coat. Just need to install the headlights. Okay, so I'm gonna assemble this now and then take photos of this wheelbase, which is 169, and the other longer wheelbase, which is 174. It's been raining every day for more than a month now, and it's not gonna stop anytime soon. So I don't really know when I'll get to take this to the trail for proper testing. And the best that I can do for now is backyard testing, but even my home course is wet. For the carrier bearing, the steel shaft is currently under production, so once I have that, I'll do a final testing, and if everything's good, you can expect to see this on the DBRC Etsy store soon, together with the cantilever system for the Kingsnake chassis. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this build because I really did. Everything that I've learned and innovated so far is in this build. That's why it's monumental for me. But this will be my last build for now. There are changes happening in my life and work, and I'll need a minute to focus and navigate them. I still owe you the test crawl video for this and the 6x6 K-Truck, so you'll see them posted as soon as I get a chance to film them. Thank you all for the insane support that you have given me. You are the real rock stars. Please know that this is not the end, but just the end of a chapter. I will be back with new builds and new ideas, and hopefully it won't take long. Please continue watching my other videos when you have time because that will help a lot in funding my future builds. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll keep rocking. Now let's see. I exceeded the target by 6 grams. I can probably change the diff cover with aluminum or all the upper links with aluminum. This is not gonna make me sleep.